I really do think that it is very possible for the AIM-120 AMRAAM to be added to War Thunder before the end of 2023. Source? Well, I don't really have a source. I'm just speculating here, but I do think I have a decent argument for the AMRAAM to be added before 2023. So stick around if you want to hear that. If you disagree or you do agree, let me know down in the comments down below. I am open to a discussion and what you guys even think an AMRAAM in War Thunder would look like. When it finally does come to the game, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to actually grind for and unlock, or if you want to just purchase it with Golden Eagles, it's going to be rather expensive. So let me tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Free GE for War Thunder. Free Golden Eagles for War Thunder is an app available on the Google Play Store in which you complete tasks of varying difficulty, and depending on how difficult the task is, that's going to determine how many Golden Eagles you're going to get for free. Are you going to be getting thousands of Golden Eagles really easily and really quickly? Probably not, but you can get a couple hundred Golden Eagles at a time relatively simply, and I'd recommend taking those and buying a low tier SL grinder or maybe a day of premium for a weekend grind session. Download the app using the link in the description down below and use my code on screen for 10 extra Golden Eagles. Let's start at the beginning of the AMRAAM theory for 2023. Quite a few months ago now, some Gaijin developers, I believe it was, made some kind of statement or said so in a forum post, I'm not sure, that was in Russian, and it was translated into English to basically say that the JAS 39 Gripen is going to be added in 2023, without a doubt. It was then also confirmed by a moderator for the forums or something, as you see on screen here, and then again confirmed by Smin1080p, who is the community manager for Gaijin and War Thunder and all that. It is to be a JS39C Gripen variant, and the only weapons that Gripen can actually carry that was in any kind of Swedish service anyway is the Iris-T infrared missile, which is way too modern and way too good to be added to War Thunder anytime soon. The British Meteor, medium range, long range, whatever, radar guided missile, and that is also way too modern, way too good to be added to War Thunder realistically anytime soon. You have the AIM-9L, which of course that's kind of obvious, it's going to be coming with the AIM-9L as its short range IR missiles, and the AMRAAM is the only other missile that the Swedish actually service with the JAS-39C Gripen. So ultimately, we have two realistic options for armament on the Swedish Gripen, and it is going to be a Swedish Gripen. I highly doubt, 99.99% certain, that the Gripen is not going to be coming to any other tech trees or as a, sub-tree to the Swedish nation. It is going to be a native Swedish plane because it just is. I mean, it's the Gripen for crying out loud. And so our two realistic options for armament is the AIM-9L and the AMRAAM, AIM-120B, I'm pretty sure for that matter. And me personally, I highly doubt that Gaijin would add such an anticipated plane like the JAS 39 Gripen with just AIM-9Ls. That's gonna kind of kill the plane on arrival. Sure, they did it with the F-16, you could make the argument, but that wasn't the only F-16. There are F-16s with just AIM-9Ls, but they are also supplemented with radar F-16s or radar missile F-16s in the exact same tech tree. The only actual exception to that is the Israeli F-16 nets, and even then, there's so many other F-16s, it doesn't really change that much. And in the end, the nets got the Pythons anyways, which makes it worth it to not have any radar missiles. They couldn't do something like that with the Gripen. They either give it all AIM-9Ls or they give it AIM-9Ls and AMRAAM. And honestly, dude, I think that the latter is the more realistic option. I just really don't see them adding a brand new modern Gen 4 12.0 plane with just 9Ls that we've had in the game for over a year now. And almost every other craft has. It wouldn't make the Gripen special in any way, and I really don't think they want to add it as primarily a ground attacker. That wouldn't make much sense either. And so, since we know for a fact, according to Gaijin themselves, that this aircraft, the JAS 39 Gripen, is actually going to be added by the end of the year, that makes me truly believe that active radar homing missile AIM-120 AMRAAMs are also going to be added into War Thunder. It just makes sense. I really do not think that the opposite of that, the gripping coming with just AIM-9Ls, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's going to happen. Of course, I don't have a source. Like I said, I am just speculating here, but I think it is rather well founded personally. But of course, only time will tell. Now, I do believe that Gaijin has said in the past that they want to add all of the Fox 3 missiles at once. And I don't mean all of the missiles in existence, I just mean they don't want only one country or one plane to be the only ones with active radar homing missiles. Of course, the Phoenix exists. We're going to pretend it doesn't because it may as well not. It's not a good air-to-air missile. It's good at killing AFK players that are tabbed out of the game. Other than that, it's not that effective. Phoenix users, you can cope in the comments down below. I don't care. You're not going to change my mind. I think most people understand that the Phoenix isn't really a go-to fighter-to-fighter air-to-air missile with somebody that's actually awake. And so with Gaijin wanting to implement the Fox 3 missiles all together for every nation, I think that possibly we might have a very interesting December update where there are multiple nations also carrying AMRAAMs. We could be looking at F-15s, we could be looking at AMRAAMs added to some F-16s. Perhaps Russia is even going to get an R-77, which I highly doubt because the 27ER is still more than enough. And at the same time, I could just be dead wrong and we get absolutely no Fox 3 missiles this year. That would be quite a bummer because I'm rather excited for the R-27ER to not absolutely stomp everything at top tier, which it very easily does, and honestly will still be rather competitive even with AMRAAMs in the game. It's just that good. Or Gaijin could just simply change their mind and all of a sudden not really care that much about every nation in the game getting active radar homing missiles at the same time. They have changed their mind about some pretty serious stuff in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. I think it makes sense for the Gripen to be the only jet in the game that actually has active radar homing missiles, because without them, it's not going to be of any use. It's not going to be that good. The F-16 is probably going to clear the floor with it. The MiG-29 is honestly probably going to be better. Of course, we have to see how the flight model is actually modeled. Again, this is all speculation here, but the Gripen is not the strongest in flight performance characteristics compared to things like an F-16, an F-14B, a MiG-29. And so, in my opinion, I think it's going to kind of need the AMRAAM to be of any kind of competitive use at 12.0. I personally don't really think it would be that overpowered. Sure, it's going to be strong, it's going to be the best missile in the game, and it is going to be annoying to deal with many times over, but that doesn't change the fact that you can just avoid all radar missiles right now by simply flying low to the ground, and I really don't think the AMRAAM's going to be an exception. I think that's just how Gaijin's going to model missiles for now. If they do decide to change that, sure, that's probably going to be a little problematic. That's going to be very annoying. But at the same time, you look at something like an R-27ER, it's got pretty much the same range as an AIM-120B. And sure, it's not active radar homing, so you do have to guide it into the target, but it is going to hit the target first pretty much every single time. So if you can find a way to still outmaneuver or dodge that incoming AMRAAM, whether it be notching, flying low to the ground, or just evading it, bleeding of its energy, I still think the 27ER is going to be able to put up a fight. That being said, Sparrows, you can pretty much kiss yourself goodbye because the Sparrow is going to be putting up absolutely no fight whatsoever to a plane that is carrying AMRAAMs. And that is why I think that the Gripen being the only plane with AMRAAMs wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea. That's going to be pretty soft on the matchmaker. There's not going to be a whole flood of Gripen spamming AMRAAMs all over the match. People are concerned about 16 versus 16 with AMRAAMs and how unfun that sounds, and I completely agree. But I do think that if it's only on the Gripen, it's really not going to be that common. And there's sure, there's going to be a handful of AMRAAMs every single game you're going to have to deal with, but I don't think it's going to be anything like seeing the F-14s carrying nothing but Phoenixes and launching 50 Phoenixes at the start of the match, because everybody's playing US, everybody grinds the F-14. Sweden is of course a minor nation, not as many people have it, not as many people plan to actually play it, especially when they're just going to wait a little bit longer to get their own AMRAAM in the end anyways. On top of that, I can't be the only one that finds it a little bit annoying that pretty much every single major air update is just a swap in the meta from US to Russia. US, Russia. US gets a new awesome top tier jet, Russia gets a new awesome top tier jet, and pretty much everybody else is just left to fend for themselves or use US and Russia tech, which is of course kind of how real life works for the most part too. But there are some other planes out there, like the Mirage 2000 for example, where its reign was very short-lived. If it even had one, you might not consider that a reign, but it would be cool, is my point, to see things like the Gripen and other minor nation jets get some spotlight time for a little bit. On top of that, the Swedish tech tree for jets is a little bit sad. It's a little bit underwhelming, not just in the amount of jets there are, the variety of jets there are, but also in the effectiveness too. You've got the 11.0 Viggen, the 11.7 Viggen, and they're really neither are very fun to play. 11.0 is constantly getting up tiered. Even when you're not getting up tiered, it's just not the best. It's not bad by any means. It is on the good end for 11.0. It's just 11.0 is not that fun to play. And then you have the 11.7 Viggen, which is atrocious. That it's got no business being 11.7. The AIM-9L is nerfed. It's no longer flare resistant. And having that as your only option, along with sky flashes that are also not impressive in the slightest, as your 11.7 loadout, and you have some really mediocre 11.0 flight performance, it's not enjoyable. That's a sorry excuse for a top tier. So I do think that they deserve something better, and I think they get a little bit of time in the spotlight. I don't think anyone could really be mad about that. Sure, it would be nice if everybody got something cool all at once and it was kind of more balanced that way, but that's rarely how it ever works, so I'm not gonna ask for that. I know it's not gonna happen. Let's pretend what I say is true and we do get AMRAAMs. What's the performance going to look like? Well, if Gaishin chooses to use any basis of reality, which sometimes they actually do with their missiles, actually more often than not, they at least make an attempt with their missiles, which I can respect. The AMRAAM would look like a Sparrow that accelerates faster, significantly faster, but not as fast as a 27ER. It'll have more range despite having less burn time, just because it accelerates more, it's going to go faster, and it's got way less drag than the Sparrow, which is going to help it glide way better, as well as smaller fins, which is going to help it be able to maneuver without bleeding as much speed while maneuvering, therefore extending its range. The G limit would be 25 of the Sparrow bumped up to 28 on the AMRAAM, so a little bit extra maneuvering pool. And it's also going to have a way better seeker, obviously, besides the fact that it's active radar homing and doesn't need the radar to guide it into the target. It is also going to be extremely difficult to notch. You're going to have to notch it perfectly within about 2 to 3 degrees deviation. But of course, Gaishin is always able to change things like that, and I really do think they would have it a little bit watered down for the sake of gameplay. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about the M120 being added to War Thunder. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you agree and just not like it? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you later.